Hello and welcome to Business 7. Namibia's mining resources has fantastic potential. It has been described as incredible. And in tonight's program, we're going to speak to the CEO of Bannerman Energy on Namibia's mining prospects. We also cover, as usual, news on the African continent. Please stay tuned.
Connection. It's in the human touch, the feeling of belonging. It inspires us and empowers us, creates clarity from complexity. It starts new conversations, unlocks the power of advice, and makes an impact on your life. At Alex Forbes, we pioneer insight to provide you with advice that connects your decisions of today to your impact tomorrow.
Let's just for a moment shift our focus to the rest of Africa to see what has happened news-wise on the continent the past week. This report by Reuters.
Here's what's been making the business headlines in sub-Saharan Africa this week. Democratic Republic of Congo's state-owned Gécamine is planning to overhaul its copper and cobalt joint ventures, its chairman has said. That's as it seeks higher stakes across the board amid the world's scramble for minerals critical to the global green energy transition. And that's also prompted Zimbabwe to push its miners to come forward with plans to produce battery-grade lithium, a senior government official said on Friday, despite a sharp fall in global prices. Africa's top lithium producer is hoping to benefit from demand for the mineral, used in electric vehicles and clean energy storage. Shares in South African miner Sibanye-Stillwater fell 4% on Wednesday, after it warned its annual profit plunged by as much as 91% last year. Sibanye and its peers have been hit by a sharp decline in platinum group metal prices, and there are plans for massive job cuts across the sector. Also in South Africa, Pick n Pay said on Thursday it was planning a rights issue to raise up to 4 billion rand, or just under $210 million. The retailer, which has been losing market share to its biggest rival Shoprite, also said it wants to list its discount grocery chain Boxer. Shares tumbled more than 17%, their biggest single-day fall on record, as the retailer also warned it could swing into a full-year headline loss. And finally, Ghana's cocoa output for the 2023 to 2024 season is expected to be almost 40% below a target of 820,000 metric tons, two sources from the country's sector regulator said, following strong seasonal winds and a lack of rain. Ghana's production shortfall and similar deficits in Ivory Coast have been fueling historic surges in global cocoa prices.
Otis Finck, the editor of Erongo, that is Namibia Media Hub's coastal division, has had an interview with the CEO of Bannerman Energy, that is Gavin Chamberlain. Of course, Bannerman very active again in the uranium sector in Namibia. Let's listen.
Mr. Gavin Chamberlain, Chief Executive Officer-elect for Bannerman Energy, effective from March 2024. Thank you for granting us this interview and congratulations on your appointment.
Thank you, Otis. Much appreciated.
Yes, so tell us, what does your appointment mean for you personally and for Bannerman Resources Namibia in light of the recent acquisition of the mining license and the transition into the operational phase of the flagship Erongo uranium project?
Yeah, so probably the way to answer that is probably to start with Bannerman. Mm-hmm. So with the award of the mining license, yes, what that did for Bannerman, it effectively meant that we're now fully permitted.
Good news.
So we can move from a study phase into an execution phase.
Yes.
So for Bannerman, it means a lot now because we're basically changing the focus of the business to executing the project and also preparing the company for future growth.
Production.
So production, which would come probably 2.5 years after we complete with construction.
Okay.
For myself, though, it's a personal challenge, and it's one that I'm really looking forward to. Mm-hmm. So I've probably been blessed in my career in that in 2 of my previous roles.
Let's not jump the gun because
Okay.
yeah, the next question is
Okay.
you previously occupied the role of project director for the $2 billion USAP uranium project in Namibia, one of the world's largest operating uranium mines in the world, and you have extensive experience in the minerals sector, which you bring to the CEO role. Now, who is Gavin Chamberlain?
So Gavin Chamberlain is somebody who's turned on by project work and challenges.
Okay.
And that's part of the reason why I'm so excited about this role. So the HUSAP role for me was extremely challenging on 2 fronts.
Yes.
So the one was it was a complex and large project. So 2.2 billion is a massive project.
Yes.
Our project is 317 million
Yes.
US dollars, so significantly smaller.
Yeah.
The HUSAP project mines about 15 million tons a year. We will only mine in the region of probably 8 million tons a year. So significantly smaller project. But the other challenge we had with the HUSAP project is when I joined the company that was doing the project management for HUSAP, we had about 30 engineers working on the project. And with the award of that project,
Yes.
I was made project director responsible for the joint venture that operated and designed and constructed the mine. And part of that challenge was it was a JV between my company at that point in time and another company who we had to, in a very short period of time, go from 30 engineers to in the region of 350 engineers.
Yes.
And what we were doing is we were combining procedures from one company with procedures from another company. And between the 2 companies, we still had to employ additional people outside of those companies. So the challenge there was to actually form an operating unit extremely quickly while we were delivering the project.
Yeah.
And the similarities between this challenge and that
Yeah.
may be smaller, but are similar because we have to build a project, but at the same time we have to prepare to employ around about 760 Namibians in the operations of the project.
So your expertise, what tell us about your expertise?
So my expertise, originally a civil engineer many years ago. I spent about 6 years in earthworks construction.
Yes.
And then I moved into project management of mining projects over 30 years ago.
Wow.
So I've been around the mining and minerals industry for over 30 years. But also, apart from the HUSAP project,
Yes.
I've worked extensively in Africa. So I've worked obviously in Namibia, I've worked in Botswana, done a lot of work in South Africa, done work in Tanzania, I've worked in Liberia. So I've got to see the world on the
Yes.
back of the mining industry and my key skill, which is project management.
And where were you born?
I was actually born in I was born in Benoni in
South Africa.
yes, in South Africa.
Wow. Johannesburg.
Yeah, but
Equally.
I grew up in a small town in the middle of Natal called Ladysmith,
Yes.
or Inambit, and that's where I grew up, and
So
my
you're
whole
from-
formative years were spent there.
You're familiar with Ladysmith, Black Mambazo?
I am, yes.
Yes. So, Mr. Chamberlain, the uranium price is booming.
Yes.
Why is that, and what is Bannerman's outlook for the market?
So there's a couple of reasons why uranium is booming at the moment. So, it's been in the doldrums probably for 8-9 years.
Yes.
And
Since Fukushima, I think.
That's correct, yeah.
Yes.
So what's actually happening now with the whole world focused on transitional energy, moving from fossil fuels to green energy, uranium is basically a replacement for coal. So when you burn coal, obviously you put in carbon into the air.
Yes.
But you're not
Emissions.
doing that
Yes.
when you do uranium. So to give you an idea is, our project alone will probably replace 60 million carbon units by replacing coal with uranium.
Wow.
So the driver here is being driven by the transition to clean energy away from fossil fuels. And that's been driven by the world, not by anybody else but the world.
Yes.
And what that means is a lot more countries are making commitments to build more nuclear power stations.
Yes.
And that means that the whole supply-demand curve, we're now starting to see the demand climbing higher than the supply.
So I grew up with a fear of uranium.
Yes.
Is that substantiated?
Well, there's a story that people tell is that you've actually probably got more uranium in the walls of your house than you have in some of the ore that we mine. But
Yes.
uranium obviously needs to be treated with care. When we mine it, it's fairly low grade, but our process increases the concentration of the uranium.
Okay.
But that goes through a number of processes
Yes.
before it becomes, let's say,
Enriched.
dangerous.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so tell us about the long-term vision for Bannerman Namibia and its strategic importance of meeting existing energy demands while adhering to sustainable practices as the company enters its development phase.
Okay, so I think the long-term future for Bannerman,
Yes.
and particularly the Tango project, is that's a 15-year life of mine. So we hope to employ Namibians at least. We want to be a Namibian company for Namibians.
Yes.
That's our ultimate aim. And
Can
there's
I
50
keep you accountable to that?
You can, yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank
No
you.
problem. And I'll tell you why later.
Okay.
But at the end of the day is sorry, I just need to get my thought back, is
Yes.
so apart from the long-term future that we're
Yes.
looking at
Yes.
is 15 years immediate mine life,
Yes.
which will come into fruition post-construction.
Okay.
But we're also currently looking, we have a large reserve, in fact one of the largest ones, is to potentially either increase the production or extend the life of mine,
Yes.
which means that potentially the 760 jobs that we currently believe we need
Yes.
will be increased.
Wow. Good news. Good news. So Bannerman Namibia is awarded contracts to 2 local contractors. What do the initial works at the Tango Uranium Project entails, and the company's choice of local contractors in light of supporting the local economy and job creation?
Yeah, so that's where I was getting at about
Yes.
Namibian country for,
Yes.
that is company for Namibians.
Yes.
It's definitely our focus to try and employ as many Namibian contractors as we can.
What type of skills are we looking for?
So a typical construction job would start with earthworks,
Yes.
move into concrete work,
Yes.
and then would be structural steel,
Yes.
mechanical erection, electrical and instrumentation.
Okay.
So it's the full range of construction skills.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we may find that some of the construction contracts are too big for local contractors.
Yes.
So what we are doing is we're trying to, where we can, make packages smaller such that they are attractive to Namibians, and then only contract outside of Namibia for the larger packages that can't be handled by Namibians. Obviously, the supply of our mechanical equipment, electrical equipment, is not going to be Namibian.
Yes.
But the construction side of it,
You'll keep
hopefully
Namibian.
we'll try and keep as Namibian as
source,
possible.
You'll source your equipment where
Yeah.
needed from outside, but the labor will be Namibian,
Namibian, yeah.
focused. So safety standards and environmental protection measures are obviously very important aspects of any mining operation. Do you have any specific initiatives and technologies that will be employed to minimize the environmental impact and also guarantee the well-being of the employees?
Yes, I think so. And I think I want to actually just briefly talk about the record that Bannerman has got. So
Yes,
if
yes.
you look around this room, there's 3 different certificates for where we've been awarded
Yes.
safety awards for, I think it's 2016, 2000 and what's that one there? I'm just trying to read the date. I think it's 2017 as well as last year.
Chamber of Mines.
Chamber of Mines certificate for best performing mining company in our category.
Yes.
Now, we are currently running for 14 years without a lost time injury.
Wow.
So,
How do you manage that?
well, I think it's Werner Ewald, who is our managing director in Namibia,
Yes.
was the mining manager at Rossing for a number of years before he joined us, but he's been with us for over 10 years.
Yes.
The culture that is instilled in the current Bannerman organization is fantastic, and it's in fact the culture we want to take forward.
Yes.
And I think it's the attention to detail. So don't let little things, if you see something little wrong, do something about it. Act immediately.
Yes.
And I think that culture is permeated through and speaks for itself in terms of the safety record.
In terms of technology, new technology, what do you employ?
Yeah, so what we've did there is we went to a specialist consultant in the greenhouse gas environment to to actually review our entire design and identify areas within the design that will allow us to reduce our carbon footprint by as much as possible. I mean, some of the technologies are obviously known. So, I mean, in terms of, we will put in 30% solar power on the project because that's the limit that's put on us. But we're also looking at investigating floating solar panels for two reasons. One, we can generate, we don't use up land mass to put solar power in. But we also reduce the evaporation from the water. So we achieve two goals with one solution. So those are the sort of solutions that we're looking at in detail at the moment.
Okay, wonderful. So what community engagement plans does Bannerman Namibia have in place, and what impact will the project have on local economies in terms of job creation, infrastructural development, and opportunities for corporate social initiatives as it enters the new phase?
Okay, so I think the important thing is that, well, I've already said it probably twice or three times, is we will employ 760
people. And locals. Yes.
The other thing is from a CSI perspective is our corporate responsibility is we're already running programs, so we're not in production yet, we're not producing revenue, but on the back of good support from our board, we're actually running a couple of programs already.
I think you're involved with schools, education.
Yeah, so we do the early learner thing where we provide backpacks and school uniforms to early school goers, and that's right across Namibia.
Wow.
So every year we hand out another 300 packs of early learner material.
Yes.
We also support Mondesa Youth Operation as well, as we are, along with Rotary, we are the other key sponsor of Mondesa Youth. And what Mondesa Youth has really done is, I think for the last 7 years, if not longer, they haven't had a single failure because they look at primary school at the end of primary school. So they've done a really good job of uplifting the education of the people in Swakopmund.
Brilliant stuff. So how do you plan on building the Bannerman Namibia team?
That's probably one of the most challenging things that we've got. So Werner Eerwald obviously has got a large Namibian network, both in country and people working on mines elsewhere in the world.
Okay.
And my own network is fairly large and substantial based on the number of projects that I've done.
Yes.
And based on my HUSAP experience, I've got fairly large Namibian network as well. So the two of us are hoping that we can utilize our network and actually also encourage Namibians to come back to Namibia and bring their skills back to work on this project.
Good stuff.
But also over and above that as well is we do have a slight geographical advantage over the other mines in the area in that we are the closest mine to Swakopmund and Walvis Bay.
Wow.
So instead of having to be an hour on a bus to get to work, you probably can do it in half an hour, which I think is a substantial advantage in terms of people's work-life balance. I think they get to spend more time at home.
Yes, I stay in Walvis Bay, and early in the mornings I see the buses picking up workers because they have to
and we will still bus people in as well. Because we're in the national park, we can't have people living on site.
Okay.
So we will still bus people in on shifts, but it's just that extra hour a day means a lot to somebody.
Definitely.
Every day, you make choices that make you legendary. Journey together with us on the path to securing your legacy as a member of the League of Legends. With the Select Platinum Bundle Fee Premium Bank offering, you will access tools that will enable you to thrive. If you earn 850,000 Namibian dollars per annum or more, you can apply for this offering today via bankvinted.com.na for only 447 Namibian dollars per month. Bank Vinted, a member of Capricorn Group.
Nigerians took to the street this week in the capital Abuja following the high cost of living and economic hardships they are suffering. David Doyle from Reuters has more.
The Nigeria Labour Congress began a strike on Tuesday over economic challenges and the high cost of living. Food and fuel prices have been soaring in Africa's biggest economy, increasing hardship. Inflation is at its highest point in almost 3 decades, spurred by bold but unpopular reforms by President Bola Tinubu in his first year in office. That includes ending a costly fuel subsidy and devaluing the local naira currency twice. NLC President Joe Ajero.
Over 150 million Nigerians are living below poverty line. Poverty, when you say below it, those are the people that can't get something to eat on a daily basis.
On Friday, some people were killed and others injured when authorities ran out of food at a distribution centre in Lagos, the Nigeria Customs Service said. In a statement, it said that a crowd had charged through barricades looking for bags of rice. Vicky Essien was among the 5,000 people said to have turned up at the distribution centre.
We just want to pray for Nigeria because this queue is not what we Nigerian wait for. It's not for us. Look at people dying. 2 men there fainted, pouring water, women also. It's not what we're supposed to suffer for.
Tinubu has defended his economic reforms, saying they were needed to boost growth and investment. This week, the government approved the immediate resumption of cash transfers to 12 million vulnerable households. However, Labour unions want Tinubu's administration to go further. On Tuesday, the central bank hiked interest rates by 4 percentage points, a move its governor said was needed to arrest inflation.
South Africa's mining sector is in the doldrums and it faces massive job losses. Reuters' David Doyle has compiled this report.
South Africa's Kumba Iron Ore on Tuesday announced plans to cut 490 jobs as it struggles to overcome persistent rail bottlenecks. That adds to thousands of planned job losses across the mining sector due to infrastructure challenges and weaker commodity prices. Kumba, a unit of Anglo American, said in December that it was curbing production to match the limited capacity at Transnet. The state-owned rail operator has been hit by shortages of locomotives and spares, as well as rampant cable theft and vandalism. In a conference call on Tuesday, Kumba CEO Mpumi Zikalala said that the proposed job cuts, combined with the restructuring of head office roles which started last September, would affect 10% of the workforce. The company said the restructuring is necessary for Kumba to remain competitive. Its shares fell more than 5% following the announcement. The news also comes after Anglo American Platinum on Monday said it would cut 3,700 jobs in South Africa. That's after a sharp decline in metal prices slashed annual profit by 71%. Its competitors, Sibanye-Stillwater and Impala Platinum, are also planning layoffs. Job losses across South Africa's mining sector will likely put pressure on the ruling ANC ahead of elections due later this year. South Africa's official jobless rate, measured at 31.9% in the third quarter of 2023, is among the highest in the world.
Worldwide, in Namibia, on the African continent, everybody is struggling with the cost of living crisis. Reuters has taken a special look at the situation in Kenya.
Kenyan furniture maker Jared Omondi now has to walk several miles to work every day. Public transport in Nairobi became unaffordable for Omondi after the government doubled the tax on petroleum products last June. Like millions of Kenyans, he's facing spiraling living costs caused by government measures to tame surging public debt.
It's been difficult having a good meal. You cannot afford to buy a half kilogram of meat, and if you have children, they have to eat kale the whole month. If you are to change, it can only be sardines.
Higher taxes are hitting business too. A survey by the Federation of Kenyan Employers of its 4,500 organizations, which employ 1.2 million workers, found 40% had cut jobs in the past year. Some said they were considering relocating to neighbouring countries. Jacqueline Mugo is the executive director of the FKE.
If I look at the last year or so, I would summarize that employers are in distress. It's a very tough economic environment. The business operating environment is fluid, it's unpredictable, and we see this reflected in various ways. That distress is reflected in employees making very many demands on employers. And employers also having to look at the cost of doing business and making tough decisions about what to cut off.
On top of consumers reining in their spending, the Kenyan shilling also suffered. Last year, it fell 20% against the dollar. And markets questioned whether a $2 billion Eurobond maturing this June could be repaid. This week provided much-needed fiscal breathing space for the government after it succeeded in swapping out of that bond. Positive sentiment around the repayment of the bond and offshore investor demand helped push the shilling up more than 7% this year. Yet analysts said higher interest payments on the new 2031 bond and structural economic weaknesses are still an issue, and something that would likely keep the currency weak and taxes high, providing no relief for household budgets.
Let me show you something.
Don't worry. Next time, I check nice.
Thanks, but it's okay. FNB Insurance checks nicer.
At FNB Insurance, we provide cover for all your valuables. From your phone, to your laptop, to your car. FNB Insurance. You value it, we cover it. T's and C's apply.
Thank you for joining Business 7 this week. We'll see you again next week, same time, same place. Goodbye.